The Baja Designs Squadron with the Jeep JL and JT A-pillar kit is one of the best lighting upgrades that you can do without touching your original headlights or fog lights or adding a roof-mounted light bar. The Squadron comes in different types with different beam patterns and different colors of light, different intensities, and it's the perfect option for adding more light to the front of your Jeep. The Baja Designs Squadron kit for your Jeep comes with the brackets for the A-pillar, a pair of lights, and let's show you how to do the install.
So today we're going to go ahead and install these Baja Designs Squadron Pro pod lights on the A-pillar mount of this Jeep Gladiator. Let's get to it. So the first step here is to go ahead and remove these two bolts. Typically these are a T47 bolt. However, this Jeep came to us with aftermarket hardware, so it is slightly different. So now that those two bolts are removed, let's talk about these vehicle-specific brackets from Baja Designs. Here we have the actual bracket, which is mounted to the vehicle. We have these two 10mm bolts, which is used to fasten the bracket to the vehicle. And then we also have these spacers that are used for the bolts. And now I'm going to show you how to mount them. So before we install the bracket, we're going to have to remove this panel here. We have to remove this because that way we can go ahead and route the wiring from the pod into the engine bay and into the auxiliary wiring for the auxiliary switches. Now that those two bolts are gone, to remove this panel, simply grab it and pull straight towards you. Easy as that. So now that the panel is removed, let's go ahead and install the bracket. First, you're going to run the bolts through the holes, then you go ahead and install the spacers through the bolts, and line it up and tighten it down. So now we're going to go ahead and put the mount on the bracket. The mount is what actually holds the pod light to this bracket. So first you're going to take the bolt that is supplied in the hardware pack. You're going to take a washer, run it through the bolt, run that through the mount, put that on the bracket, take the other washer, put it like that, and then put the nylon locking nut on the bolt. So now you're going to go ahead and tighten this bolt down. It's going to take two 14mm. So let's go ahead and put the pod on the mount here. Going to go ahead and put one screw in on this side, and then we're going to go do the other side. So now that both of the screws are threaded in, we're going to go ahead and tighten it down. So before we go ahead and get into the wiring part of this video, we're going to have to install the panel back on that we just previously took off. Now to do that, we're going to have to take these two screws back off and then slide the panel back in and then tighten those screws back down. And then you're going to go ahead and set that to the side. So now whenever you're ready to push it back in, I personally like to put this wire, line it up with this crack here as much as you can, just to give it a little bit more flexibility. So install right about there. So now we're going to go ahead and install the bolts that we just took out. And there you go. And reinstall the bolts. Now we're going to pop the hood so we can wrap up the wiring. With this kit, you're going to receive two wiring harnesses. One is going to be a relay harness with a switch on it, which we will not be using since this Jeep here came with factory auxiliary switches. And then the second one is this harness here. This harness will tie into the two pod lights, and then it will wire up to either the relay harness that is supplied or to the factory auxiliary switch wiring on the truck. Let's go ahead and install it. Go ahead and move this out of the way, and then you can access the connector right here. It's going to be a little bit tough to see what you're working with here, but overall it's still pretty simple. Go ahead and plug it on in. So with that plugged in now, let's go ahead and run the wiring. We can put this back here, and as you can see, there's a little slot to run the wire. Go ahead and run that through there. And go ahead and take the rest of the wiring into the engine bay. To route the wiring, the best way I found to do it is to go ahead and run it along top here. We will double back and zip tie everything back up whenever everything is buttoned up. Once you run the wiring, you're going to be left with these two connections here. This one will be going to the factory auxiliary switch wiring right here, and then this one will be going to the pod light. Let's go ahead and get this one plugged in. This is the switch harness that Baja includes with this kit. Now, since we're using the factory auxiliary switches, we don't need to use this. However, there is one part that we need to take off of this, and that is this ring terminal. I'll go ahead and show you how to install this and what you need to do with this if you're using this with the factory auxiliary switches. So within this kit, you're going to receive two plugs that look like this that will need to be crimped and connected. Now, you don't have to use this. This is the most secure way to do this. You could wire this directly, but we want to use this switch here because this will be the best connection that you can use for this vehicle. This vehicle is frequently used for off-roading, mudding, overlanding, that kind of stuff. So because of that, we want to have the best secure connection that we can have. So this is the part of the harness that we cut off earlier. We're going to use this for the ground wire. Go ahead and strip back some of this wiring here. Then you're going to take one of the red grommets, slide that over the wire, and now for the crimping part. We're going to fold this part, the end of the wire over just a little bit so you have more area for the pin to grab onto. So now it's time to crimp the wire to the pin. Go ahead and insert the pin into the crimp to hold it in place. Insert the wire into the pin and crimp it down. Now once that is crimped, you'll go ahead and crimp this right here as well too. So once you've had that crimped, you'll want to slide up this red grommet here. Go ahead and make this last crimp here. And there we go. That pin is crimped. Now to do the other wire. This is the wire that we will be using next. Let's go ahead and get this wire stripped. And then the process is the exact same as the wire that we just did. Go ahead and fold this section over slightly. Put the grommet over the wire. Once you have the grommet on the wire, go ahead and get your crimp tool ready and lock it into place. Slide that over the wire, crimp it down, slide this grommet back up, and crimp it again. So now it's time to insert the wires into the connector. This black wire with a red stripe, which is the ground wire, will be going to this right side right here. This red wire, which is the power, will be going to this left side right here. All you got to do is insert it in, and it locks into place. Once those two wires are in the connector, go ahead and close this, just like that. Plug it into the wire that goes to both pods. And now all you have to do is find somewhere to ground this out to. Now once that is done, we can go ahead and zip tie this wire and we'll be done.
If that's still not enough light for the front of your Jeep, check out the other options that Baja has for your Wrangler and Gladiator. That's not the only things that we do here for Headlight Revolution for your Jeep. We talk about headlights and fog lights, tail lights, reverse lights, interior lights, any kind of lighting upgrade you can think of for your Jeep Wrangler, we cover in our other videos. So go check it out and subscribe. Thanks for watching.